So, there's a pretty infamous video swimming around in the Godzilla and Kaiju community by Doktor Skipper entitled, "Why Godzilla Doesn't Work in America," and by the pretty hard like to dislike ratio, and how he's been called out by a lot of people in the community. I'm gonna say this video is gonna be quite the ride. And again, before we begin, I ask that you do not harass Doktor Skipper over this video. Also, the PNG of the Komodo dragon is just a temporary placeholder for an avatar.
I could swallow up, bottle up, I'll split up, feel like Godzilla. Get out the way, Eminem! This is my video! Gojira, also known as Godzilla, is the most popular piece of Japanese media ever created. Let's just pretend anime is not a thing, okay, for like 20 minutes. Godzilla is so popular that a lot of people didn't even know that it originated in Japan, or that it's in the public domain in the United States, since Toho, the company that created Godzilla, never expected the freak lizard to get Marvelized one day. So they didn't renew and manipulate the copyright system like a certain company that does with all their beloved IPs.
Walt Disney?
Breaking news, Mickey Mouse is now public domain. Oh wait, never mind, just Steamboat Willie. Not even that. The name is still claimed by Disney, so the only legal way to name it is Boat Rat Drives Boat. But this free copyright for Godzilla is only in America. In Japan, our boy is still in shackles.
We are not even a minute into this video and there is already so much to unpack. Number one, Godzilla is not public domain in America. Believe me, when I first heard this, I immediately went to Google, and this was the first result I found. And guess what? Godzilla himself, or the first Gojira film, is not public domain. This image of Gojira is, however, within the public domain, because for some reason Toho didn't want to renew it.
Yeah, I didn't really know anything about Godzilla for most of my life other than its influence on American culture. I knew more about Reptar and Shelly from Frankenweenie than the real Godzilla. But then in 2014, when I was 12 playing, I don't know, GTA 5?
Oh, my N-word, huh?
The first Americanized version of Godzilla came out. Yes, the first, because 1998 never happened. Jesus Christ. Fast forward to now, 2024. Japan has released a new Godzilla film starring Eminem's hit album, Kamikaze.
Zombie brains make for bad sushi.
And in the States, Godzilla is now collaborating with King Kong in what looks to be a brand new Fortnite event, which isn't that much of a stretch since they were in Call of Duty, for some reason. I know 2024 just started, and we haven't had a Skipper video in a while since he was rotting away during the holidays. New year, new me, alright? We're back. Don't all clap at once. But let's go back to 2014 to examine the playing field and how we got here. Godzilla is super interesting to me. After the 2014 movie, I grew up and went to school and played video games and doodled in math books that cost a lot of money, but I didn't care because look at this drawing. Homie. But then at age 16, I was activated like the Winter Soldier to hate the 9-to-5 matrix. Look, Mom, being a brain surgeon is cool and whatever, but I want to pursue the arts, aka the epilogue to what is eventually going to be homelessness. Or a bullet to my head. So I did a film study course in high school where the teacher was the head football coach that hated his damn life. So instead of teaching anything, he put on crash course videos from YouTube where Lily Gladstone from Killers of the Flower Moon taught me film history. Thank you, Lily, for sending me down a warpath with Letterboxd. Eventually, I started learning stuff for myself in film history, okay? I was hitting the books. Books being video essays from other idiot film geeks online. Thus, I went down in a really big Godzilla rabbit hole. And it gave me a big appreciation for the creature, its impact on filmmaking, and made me reevaluate how I look at the Godzilla brand as a whole. Also, there's a big thing I need to address in this video. I kinda hate Godzilla, if we're gonna be honest.
Yeah, you guys can probably see where this video is going. And that last long clip you just saw, I want you guys to keep that in the back of your minds because it's really gonna reflect the rest of this entire video, especially down the line.
To make this really easy for you to understand, Godzilla has what I like to call the Jurassic Park effect. Jurassic Park is a great movie that has cool dinosaurs and sexy Jeff Goldblum, but the film still has heavy messaging.
Dosen't, we've got Dosen't here!
Nobody cares.
It's a critique on corporations and Walt Disney-like figures that try to play God on the grounds of greed. They also like to suspend my Twitter account for impersonating Harrison Ford, which I didn't do. Totally.
Answer me, you black son of a bitch!
The Raptors and T-Rex are awesome, this is very true, but they aren't just there for the sake of existing. The dinosaurs have a bigger purpose to the overall film, thus making Jurassic Park still iconic to this day. It also kind of revolutionized CGI and changed the landscape of film, yada yada, but Jurassic Park, yeah, the IP is now just CGI wars with Chris Pratt. I don't know what the hell a carbine rifle is gonna do to dinosaurs. I mean, Mark Wahlberg used a gun to fight metal aliens. I give up. And while still making a lot of money, because they sure as hell did that, they have like no cultural impact at all. This is what happened with Godzilla. I don't have any nostalgia for the old Godzilla movies. Yeah, I still watched them a bit when I was a kid.
The fuck?
And even rewatched them recently when I got the idea for this video. So no bias. 98%.
Yeah guys, no bias, even though I'm going to say that every Godzilla movie after the first one, with the exception of -1, sucks ass. But hey, you're entitled to your opinion, and that's okay. However, if you're going to try and say that the other films have no meaning at all, I'm sorry, but that is objectively false. For example, 2 Godzilla movies, Godzilla vs. Mothra from the Showa, and then the one from the Heisei era, have a message about corporations exploiting creatures for greed. Godzilla vs. Hedorah is a message about what happens when we let our pollution get out of control. Now yes, some of the films do reuse the idea of Godzilla being a metaphor for nuclear destruction, such as Shin Godzilla. How the rebirth of Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Megalon had a message against nuclear testing. Godzilla vs. Biollante. What happens when mankind decides to play God when they don't understand what they are fully doing and what said creature they create is fully capable of? Hell, even the 1998 Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin Godzilla film had a message similar to the first 1954 Gojira. Granted, very poorly executed. The franchise itself isn't perfect, because there are some pretty bad Godzilla films out there. Anime trilogy. But despite that, even the anime trilogy does have a meaning and a message. Not all of these films are cash grabs.
Percent of them suck ass. Godzilla fell into the same trap that all successful franchises eventually fall into. Godzilla's look was more fascinating to shareholders and executives than the original intentions and creativity that made him even exist in the first place. So they spammed out Godzilla films. He's fighting bugs. He's fighting mechanized versions of himself. He's fighting 3-headed dragons. He's doing shit like this. Because why the hell not? And some of the films are fun, I'll admit it, but for the most part, a lot of the legacy of Godzilla just reeks of cheaply made cash grabs. So when Godzilla turned into a cartoon for kids, a lot of adults stopped caring.
What is this shit?
So then the cycle reset, and this time Goji went to America, where the same thing happened again. We got a serious Godzilla, then people complained that it was too serious with not enough Godzilla, so the franchise became Looney Tunes. And the sequel somehow had worse human characters, and then people got annoyed with Millie Bobby Brown, the fat kid from Deadpool, and Alfred from Atlanta spilling water on a computer to fry Mechagodzilla's motherboard to save the day. And this made some people not really like
Doktor Skipper, I really would love to know where you're getting your information from. First of all, King of the Monsters was panned by critics, but Godzilla fans really loved the film. I did myself. And second of all, Godzilla vs. Kong was universally praised by both fans and critics alike. I don't know where you're getting this idea that people are tired of Godzilla. I mean, yeah, some people may be, but right now, as we speak, 2024, and possibly beyond, this is the best era to be a Godzilla fan. As stated previously in my video discussing the possibility if we'll get a new game based off the franchise this year, which I really hope we do. We're getting films from both Japan and America.
like Godzilla that much anymore. And now Japan has gone back to reset that cycle, and from ground zero, we got a breath of fresh air again. So yeah, Godzilla is in a constant battle of balance between being really serious and being really stupid, but the good is really good, so let's talk about that good.
Okay, I'm just gonna skip ahead in his video because a lot of what he's about to say is mostly true on the 1954 film, but I really just want to get to the part where he gets a lot of stuff wrong.
This is why Godzilla 2014 by Gareth Edwards is the best version of Godzilla in the States. But even then, Godzilla doesn't really work in the United States. 2014 Godzilla is the most grounded of the Monsterverse films, having the most restraint while using Godzilla on frame in unique ways. It's still one of the best looking Godzilla films due to the directing by Gareth Edwards that relies a ton on perspective shots. This sentiment was even kept 9 years later in a spin-off show called Monarch that treated 2014 Godzilla the same way, even with it being abandoned in later films to a different visual style. Before even getting the reveal of Godzilla in 2014, you could feel his scale. While being smaller than both his King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong variations, he feels the most massive in this movie. Even for the antagonist Mutos, perspective shots are still filmed from the human perspective, making the creatures scale massively. It makes the monsters feel like real threats in the human world. And seeing the monsters from the eyes of kids on a bus, Marines on a halo jump, or a shot from the evacuation center makes this obvious fiction feel grounded. 2014 Godzilla is really good on this front, with a lot of homages to the filming of 1954's Gojira, before the direction became really stylized. Since average moviegoers didn't like barely seeing the monsters, with human characters taking most of the screen time, and when they did see the monsters, it was really dark. But even with the more stylish change later, the human characters ended up being worse somehow, giving them more importance and shitty plot lines. But 2014's human problem has a lot to do with how Godzilla is structured, and how it being in the US hinders its storytelling. American Godzilla as a whole is an oxymoron thing to begin with. A thing made to represent America's atomic bomb in Japan is now being used for American heroism.
Uh-oh, retard alert! Retard alert, class!
So because of this, you can't really get that much depth with Godzilla, since he's the protagonist ally to the American military.
What? What the fuck?
The US doesn't have the same history of catastrophe as Japan did with the atomic bomb, and America is also obsessed with patriotism. So instead of making Godzilla an allegory for the consequences of mankind's actions, or have a much larger depth of Godzilla being a force of nature against the United States, he's now instead Superman, where he gets recontextualized to be Superman, which is hilarious when you rewatch 2014's Godzilla with this perspective after watching Japanese Godzilla films. First off, that hydrogen bomb test that destroyed the Lucky Dragon 5, which got the 1954 movie made in the first place, well, now the history has changed, and the hydrogen bomb was used to attack Godzilla on that test drop to protect the greater mankind, and it accidentally made him bigger. And after being threatened by this walking nuke and realizing there's nothing the US could do about it, it's now going to be the savior to America against the Japanese threat that was forced out of hiding by humanity that then attacks Hawaii, where then the Japanese threat gets killed by a walking nuke that goes down in a heroic sacrifice, and then he decides he's got one more in him, so he gets up and everyone claps for him as fighter jets fly by, saving the day as he goes back into the water. Take in mind, like, thousands of people have probably died to Godzilla, and by the look—
Wow. Just wow. A lot to unpack here. First of all, Doktor Skipper seems to think that Godzilla became a hero because of his American adaptations, when in reality, a lot of the Showa films from the 70s had Godzilla portrayed as a hero when he fought, the Black Hole Planet 3 aliens in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla and Terror of Mechagodzilla, or how he stopped the Cetopians from using Megalon to destroy all of Japan, or how he stopped Ghidorah from turning Earth into another Venus, or heck, in the Heisei films, how he stopped the time-traveling terrorist in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, and how he rescued his son and Earth from Space Godzilla. Firstly and foremost, Godzilla is not Gamera. I think you have him confused with Gamera. He's no Spider-Man or Batman or Superman or Green Lantern, and he's not a symbol of patriotism in the legendary Monsterverse. In the Monsterverse continuity, Godzilla and the other Titans restore balance to nature. That is one of the key elements of that continuity. He is neither a hero nor a threat to humanity, because in King of the Monsters, he saved Earth from being terraformed into a wasteland by Ghidorah. In Godzilla vs. Kong, he was attacking Apex cybernetic facilities because they were constructing Mechagodzilla to wipe him and all the other Titans out. Heck, at the beginning of Godzilla vs. Kong, the first Apex cybernetic facility he attacked was in Florida, on American soil. Granted, Apex Cybernetics was a worldwide company and not something that was exclusive to America, but you get the idea. He was destroying American soil because they were building Mechagodzilla. And the reason why the military was around Godzilla in specifically 2014, they weren't allies with him. They were keeping an eye on him to make sure he didn't cause any destruction to any city in America or else in the world. Where yes, in 2019's King of the Monsters, he was labeled a threat to national security. How can Godzilla be a patriotic symbol of America when in those adaptations he's listed as a threat to national security? There's even a meeting at the beginning of King of the Monsters where they discuss Godzilla as a threat not only to America, but to the entire world. And second, I don't know how you came up with this idea that the Mutsus represent Japan and Godzilla represents America. Godzilla, in that continuity, is a force of nature. His portrayal in the Monsterverse has him as a protector, not as some symbol of American patriotism. The Mutos showed the dangers of nuclear energy in that film. They practically feed on nuclear radiation. That is a key characteristic of the Mutos. Their appearance in the film is because of the activities of humans, and it extends far beyond the island of Japan. But that's all I'm pretty much going to respond to from Doktor Skipper here. But what Doktor Skipper is trying to say here is that America is incapable of doing a Godzilla adaptation because we will patriotize the character and turn him into a hero, despite the fact that he has been portrayed as a hero in Japan. It's really unfair to compare Godzilla -1 to the Monsterverse, because while they both have the same character name, they have two different interpretations of said character. -1 was an excellent callback to the original 54 film. The Monsterverse, on the other hand, is recapturing the wackiness and the zaniness of the Showa era. You know, the Monsterverse with the 2014 film started out serious and grounded, but then it got more like the Showa as the series went on. And that's fine. Godzilla is a very versatile character. In the original film, Godzilla stood as an allegory, a metaphor for nuclear weaponry and fallout post-World War II, and the fear of what radioactive bombs and radiation in general can do to mankind if left unchecked and if we keep utilizing said weaponry. As time went on, Godzilla became to represent other things than just a metaphor for nuclear weaponry and fallout, such as environmental protection. Godzilla can be adapted into a lot of things. He could be a metaphor for climate change today and how big companies and governments just don't want to do anything about it. He can be a protector of the planet, saving it from, again, pollution monsters like Hedorah or extraterrestrials like Gigan and Ghidorah. Or how in GMK, he can be the restless souls of those lost in World War II, reincarnated into a demon that is hell-bent on wiping out all of humanity. And if you want proof on how I know all this, well, the proof is in Toho themselves. Could you imagine how boring and repetitive the franchise would be if in just every single movie, Godzilla just represented nuclear fallout and nuclear warfare, and he never had any enemies like pretty much all of the cast of Toho monsters? But that's gonna wrap it up for this video, because I don't want this video to be any longer than it unnecessarily needs to be. And like I said at the beginning, please do not go and harass Doktor Skipper about this video. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you all in the next one.